Hello friends and strangers out there on the internet, and today is Sunday, and if you are a subscriber to this channel, then you will know that Sunday is my usual day for, well, it's my sort of long days painting period down at my studio. It's where I get most of my work done. But today it's not possible because I had to deliver my car to the nearest garage to get the brakes done. I noticed something was going on there, and I took it in and they said, yeah, you need the brakes replacing. So the nearest garage is actually 16 miles from my village. There's the garage there. So what they suggested was that I delivered my car today so that they could start on it early, first thing tomorrow morning. So I've put the keys in the letterbox. Yeah, because that's how things are done here. And there she is, my car, my beloved MX-5. And if you are an artist or an amateur painter or just interested in art, you may be interested to know that the colour is called Dolphin grey. And that particular colour is very rare for MX-5s, which makes it a collectible car. And I bought an MX-5 because I believe that life is an adventure. And I can tell you that every time you drive an MX-5, it feels like you are in an adventure. And talking about grey, as you can see, it's a very grey day today. I would actually say it was probably a combination of fog grey and wolf grey. So now that I've delivered my car to the garage, I've got to walk 20 minutes to the nearest bus stop. And so I thought I would use that time to talk about something that's been on my mind recently. Is magic and faith real? And you know, if you immediately laughed at that suggestion, then this video isn't for you, because it means that the world has already consumed you. I'm sorry for that if that's happened, because it's made you skeptical. But if the world has not yet hardened your heart and you still believe that life is more than just the daily grind of trying to make money in order to pay your bills, then stick around, because this story might just prove to you that at least the possibility that magical things can happen, and that all you need to do to change your circumstances is to take a leap of faith. You see, I have a feeling that events and experiences of our childhood are somehow linked to our future. It's as though everything is connected somehow. And if that is true, then if we are uncertain about what we want to do with our lives, then all we have to do is look back into our childhood and see if the clues are there. And if you find those clues, then just follow the direction of where they're pointing, and everything should work out. Of course, there's no guarantee of that. There is no guarantee in life because life is uncertain, right? And uncertainty breeds fear, and fear breeds paralysis and stops us from making changes in our lives. We fear that if we change things, then it might go worse. So fear kind of traps us, and it's the uncertainty that creates the fear. But you know, there's another way of looking at uncertainty, because think about it. It's the very fact that life is uncertain that makes life interesting. How many times in life, or on the news, or watching sport, that you see things that you say, I never thought that that could happen. And that's because of uncertainty creates the ground for improbable things to happen. And that's the real magic there. That's where the real magic lies. You see, life can be magical, but only if you're open to letting magical things happen. If you remain closed to the possibility, then all you do is ensure that magical things can never happen. So I say, why not embrace uncertainty? Let it be part of your life. Let it be a positive part of your life rather than a fearful part of your life. When I emigrated to Norway to reimagine my life as a full-time artist, it was a leap of faith. I didn't know anything about Norway. I would have to learn a new language, and I had no guarantee of an income. I was leaving my family, my friends, and I even had an offer of a full-time job as a designer, and that job had a generous pension. And all I had was faith in my ability to draw and a lifetime's knowledge of colour. And I think it's kind of ironic that I went from being born in one of the world's hottest countries to living in one of the world's coldest countries. You see, I was born in Sierra Leone in West Africa, which was right near the equator. And Norway is right on the edge of the Arctic Circle. In the 1950s, my father, who was newly married to my mother, he was working as a junior accountant for a shipping firm in Liverpool. And that shipping firm was opening offices in Sierra Leone, in the city called Freetown. And my father was offered a position there. And I can only guess, because I never really spoke to my father about this, but I can only guess that my parents took a leap of faith, because they emigrated there. So I lived in Sierra Leone till my parents decided to move back to the UK in 1971 when I was 7 years old. And after that, I lived in the UK till I was 39 years old when I emigrated to Norway. And I've been living in Norway now for the past 22 years. And now that I'm older, I can look back at my life and I can see that a magical event that happened in my childhood in Sierra Leone is a direct link to a magical event that happened here in Norway when I first emigrated here. Okay, so let me paint the picture. I want you to imagine a 6-year-old boy coming out of school, being picked up by his father. And from there, we drove to a fishing village. And this was something my father did very often in order to buy fish freshly caught from the ocean. And you know, to this day, I can remember coming onto that beach and the entire village, it seemed like the entire village was on the beach, and all the men were pulling in a gigantic net. They'd obviously put it out into the ocean and they were drawing it in onto the beach. And I even was trying to help them. And I'll never forget the sight of the net as it came onto the shoreline. The fish, thousands upon thousands of fish were jumping like crazy. And because it was so sunny, the sunlight was bouncing off the shiny skin of the fish. And I'll never forget the sight of, it was just like glittering and glittering, sparkling light of all. I mean, it was really a magical sight. I'll never forget it. And I actually wonder if today that has influenced the fact that I love using glitter in my paintings. However, that magical sight suddenly turned into a tragical sight because I noticed that there was a dolphin caught in the net with all the fish. And, you know, it really upset me. I was like crying, and the reason why I was so upset about that dolphin is because I'd been watching a TV series which basically presented dolphins as magical creatures.
Pa, he's telling us to come.
You know, I was crying and crying, and I was begging my father to let the dolphin go free. And I don't think my father was really bothered about it, but when he saw how upset I was, he went over to the fisherman and he asked him, "Can you set the dolphin free? You know, the boy's upset." And the fisherman said to my father that anything caught in that section of the fishing net was his property, and that if my father wanted to let the dolphin go free, then he would have to buy the dolphin. Now, I don't know what my father paid for that dolphin, but I do remember that fisherman having a big smile on his face when my father handed him the money. And I'm pretty sure my father could have afforded it, actually. And so that fisherman with another fisherman and my father, I even tried to help as well. We dragged the dolphin out into the water. Actually, they didn't really need to drag it that far. It only needed a little bit of buoyancy, and then it was gone. It swam out into the ocean. And I remember standing there watching it swim out with tears in my eyes. And then, guess what happened, guys? The dolphin leaped out of the water. Was that not a magical thing? And you know, sometimes I wonder if that event with the dolphin from my childhood days had some kind of subconscious effect on me choosing that MX5 with the colour Dolphin Grey. Now I must say though that I had no idea that the colour of that MX5 was called Dolphin Grey. I had no idea of that when I bought that car. I only found that out later. Just a coincidence, I guess. And you know, there's something as magical as the dolphin right here in the fjords of Western Norway. And it's a creature called Nise, N-I-S-E, which translates to porpoise. It's the harbour porpoise in particular. And the name of the Nise is actually a play on words, which is Nise spelt with a Y, N-Y-S-E, which means to sneeze. Isn't that fantastic? If you think you can see how it's happened when the porpoise and the dolphin, of course, they sneeze the water out of the top of their heads, don't they? And you know, the porpoise have been living in Norway for thousands of years, and there are actually a lot of legends here in Western Norway based around them. And I do intend to do some videos about that because they're really interesting. One of the legends says that if the porpoise vanish from this area, then it will kill the spirit of the fjord. And another legend says that if you see one of the Nise, one of the porpoise, leap out of the water, then you are to make a wish, because it's a very, very rare sight, and that wish will come true. About a week ago, I actually witnessed that. I actually witnessed a porpoise. It was a family of porpoise swimming on the fjord here, the Sogne Fjord. And I think it was about maybe 4 of them. And guess what? I saw one leap out of the fjord. And yeah, I made a wish. And what I wished for was for art to return home. You see, guys, one of the reasons why I started this channel is because I believe that art has lost its way. It's lost its relevance in modern day society. It's become nothing more than a product to sell or a speculative commodity for the rich. And that's not what I was taught art was meant to be about when I was a teenager in my art school years. And for me, a painting is a magical thing. In a world which seems to destroy the magic of our childhood and harden our hearts, a painting can be a magical thing that can reignite or reawaken the feeling of magical times, of imagination and adventure. That's what I want my paintings to do. And so you see, when I saw that porpoise, that Nisa, leaping out into the air, leaping out of the fjord just over a week ago now, it reminded me that I took a leap of faith when I emigrated to Norway. And it also reminded me of a magical event that happened in the first year when I moved here. And yeah, it seems straight out of an adventure movie. I emigrated to Norway in January 2004, and in the spring of that year something strange happened. One day this giant, and I mean a giant of a man, came into the gallery and asked if I would be interested in painting a giant mural. And the subject matter of this giant mural was the Nisa, the porpoise. And this giant of a man, he was a local landowner, and he run a business renting cabins located alongside the fjord, which is actually a common business in this area because it's a tourist area. And it turns out that he'd been to America on vacation, and he went into a cafe in Minnesota, and in this cafe was a gigantic mural. And so it inspired him to have a mural painted on one of the cabin walls alongside the fjord. And I was immediately intrigued by the idea. But then he wanted it painted like sort of flat, like a cartoon, you know. Maybe you've seen them in swimming pools, that kind of thing. And you know, that wasn't really me. I actually could do it. I said, but I'm sorry, it's not something that interests me. So I declined the offer. What you've got to understand, guys, is that I moved to Norway for a new life. And I didn't want to fall into the trap of just doing things for money. You know, I may as well just taken a job if I was going to do that. And I decided from day one that I was only going to do paintings that I wanted to do from now on, or if I was inspired to do them. Well, guess what happened? About a week later, the giant came back and he said to me, if you had the freedom to paint the mural in any style that you wanted, would you be interested in doing it then? And I said to him, I said, listen, what really intrigues me about the project is the fact that in order to see the mural, you'd have to get in a boat and go out onto the fjord. And I said, there's something magical about that for me. So, you know, a kind of flat, comical cartoon porpoise is not magical for me. But what I would paint for you would be magical. Let me think about it, he said. Now, I reckon that it was probably concerned about how much I would charge him, because if you're going to paint like a flat cartoon, it's not going to take that long. It doesn't take that much skill. And what I was saying to him, that I would paint, a spectacular image. So I think he was concerned about that. So anyway, a week later, he came back and he said, I'll go for it. And we agreed on a price. And I wasn't greedy, guys, because you see, I've learned that greed destroys dreams and generosity creates them.
No.
And so the giant, called Ragnar, which is an old Viking name, drove me out to this cabin where he wanted the mural painting. And it was then, when I saw the size of it, I knew then that it would be the biggest project that I'd ever undertaken. But I knew that I could do it. So I measured it up, and for the next few weeks I studied the Nisa, did a lot of drawings about them, studied their habits, did some sketches, but actually ideas of how the image could be, I was getting nowhere. And then one morning I woke up really early, which is unusual for me, and out of my living room window was this stunning sunrise over the fjord. I mean, it was breathtaking. And what really captured attention was that the fjord was completely, I mean, it was pink. It was like pure rose pink or something. It was as though somebody had actually poured pink paint into the fjord. It was unreal. It was almost like a Disney fairy tale or something. And so I kind of imagine myself, or imagine somebody walking along the coastline looking at this pink sunrise. As they're looking out, a family of Nisa, a family of porpoise, come swimming past them. And as they're watching, one of the porpoise leap out of the fjord. And so they made a wish. And that was the image I had in my head. And so I did a lot of sketches based on that. And I phoned Ragnar the giant to come and see them. And he was all excited, I remember. And I said to him, listen, before I show you the sketches, you're paying me for an image of one Nisa, one porpoise. But I'm actually going to paint two, and you're going to get one for free. And he laughed at that. So I told him, I said, here's how the image is going to be. Told him about the sunrise, and I said that there'll be one porpoise, as most people see them as they come out of the water, like so, seeing the fin and everything. And there'll be another porpoise leaping out of the fjord. I said, and the idea is that when somebody goes out in a boat and sees the painting and they see a leaping porpoise, then they can make a wish. It could be like a tourist attraction, I said. And he absolutely loved the idea. And so I set to work. You see, guys, that mural established my reputation here in this area because it got a lot of attention, and it opened up opportunities for me that I wouldn't have had before. It changed everything. And I'm pretty sure that the event of that dolphin from my childhood days in Sierra Leone had a direct, I think there's a direct connection there. So what of faith and magic? Are they real? Well, I took a leap of faith in emigrating to Norway, and I based that leap on my belief in my abilities. And things worked out. And what of magic? Is that real? Can't you see that it's we who create the magic? We make it ourselves. And we create magic when we help others fulfill their dreams. You know, Ragnar came to me, he had a dream of it was just an idea really, but it kind of became a dream for him. And there was nobody really in the area who could have done that mural. I had to move to Norway for that to happen. And I made his dream possible, and I made it more magical than he could ever have imagined. And he loves that mural. And people do go out on their boats and their kayaks and their canoes to see that mural. But you see, when we help others, we create magic. And that's how we keep the spirit of magic, the spirit of adventure alive. So if you feel that life hasn't turned out the way you expected it to, or things aren't going the way you wish them to, and maybe you feel stuck and you don't know what direction to take in your life, then what I suggest is that you look back into your childhood days. See if the clues are there. Look at experiences and events that happened in your childhood and see if there's a clue to what you should be doing in your life. And if you find those clues, follow the direction. Trust them. Take a leap of faith. Reimagine the life that you want to have. Yeah, it was a deep one this week, so I think I'll leave it there. My bus is coming any minute now. So as usual, guys, take care, give care, and be careful out there. And don't be strangers, and visit me again on At Tour Reimagined. See you guys. Have a great week.